Hi guys, this is All Outdoor One here. Just trying to get a discussion going about wild camping in the UK. One of the disadvantages of living in the UK is that, you know, all land is pretty much owned by somebody. So technically, wild camping is not allowed generally. There are some exceptions, of course, namely Dartmoor National Park, where the right to wild camp is entrenched in law. But anywhere else in the UK, usually you have to procure the landowner's permission. Obviously, an alternative to wild camping is just camping at campsites, which there are hundreds of, if not thousands, in the UK. But you know, me personally, I prefer to come out somewhere which is slightly more isolated, where I'm not being disturbed by anybody else, and where I can pretty much do as I please to some extent. So you know, finding spots like the one I'm in now is quite a task sometimes. Asking the landowner's permission, however, is not always practical. I've been in situations several times where, you know, I've hiked in somewhere quite late at night, decided to put my tent up, and you know, in the morning I've had the landowner come up to me and you know, give me a bit of a hard time sometimes. Well, I mean, you know, if I've arrived there at like 10 at night, it's pitch black, you know, it's, you know, how do I know who the landowner is exactly? You know, if it's a vast piece of land, you know, the estate could be on the other side, essentially. So I understand that doing that is a liberty to some extent. So I find that the best way to deal with that situation, if the landowner does approach you, is to be courteous and polite, apologise, you know, tell him that you didn't realise that this was private property exactly. You thought it was public access land. You know, maybe offer him, you know, a fiver. I've done that in the past, and I find that they generally refuse anyway. But yeah, make sure, you know, you don't leave any rubbish behind. I think that's infuriating. I can understand that. I mean, I've been in certain wild sites, and I've seen other campers, you know, pitching up, you know, close by, and then the next day, once they've left, I've examined their spot, and you know, they've left all sorts of rubbish behind, which I think is disgraceful and disgusting, you know. And to some extent, I will try and pick up their litter if possible. You know, I mean, once there was just a huge pile of it, and it was just impractical for me to do so. But generally, you know, I like to think that, you know, you should leave the campsite as you found it pretty much, and not ruin it for everybody else, especially with wild sites, you know, because these wild sites, you know, they're not regulated like campsites are. So, you know, there's no one coming up and cleaning and all the rest of it. So to preserve, you know, the environment, basically, just don't leave your rubbish. It's disgusting. And you know, the fact that that these wild sites aren't regulated now doesn't mean that they won't be in the future. I mean, you know, if the areas are being continually abused in that way, then, you know, things may change for the worse. Essentially, it is possible to wild camp in the UK, however. It's not actually as difficult as you may think. Where I am now is generally agricultural land. However, I found this forest, and yeah, I haven't seen anyone for about 2 days, so, you know, it just gives you an idea of how remote it is here. As to actually finding good places to wild camp, what I can suggest is look to the national parks. You know, I mean, they are, at the end of the day, larger areas of of wild land, or in some cases agricultural land. So you know, you will find the odd quiet spot here and there. A good friend to have is Google Earth. I recommend, you know, you can just look to the area you're interested in, and you know, find a place that's far away from buildings or roads, and your chances will be pretty good, I reckon, generally. That's how I find the majority of my spots, although I do stumble across them sometimes. Yeah, Scotland is a slightly interesting case because you can actually wild camp there legally, above, you know, a certain height, as in, you know, above, I think it's 1,000 feet or something like this, which is nice, but we don't have that in England and Wales and Northern Ireland. Another great thing about wild camping is, of course, the fact that it's free. You know, you don't have to pay somebody to, you know, stay on their land. I think this is as it should be, and you know, I love it. Basically, it's one of my passions in life. Allows you to really reconnect with nature. I know that sounds corny, but it's true. You know, once you try it with an open mind, you'll see. Yeah, so this is just a little video, a little discussion on wild camping. Would love to hear any comments. Yeah, get discussion going. This is All Outdoor One here, signing out. Take care.